Subcommittee on Economic Development, Public Buildings, and Emergency Management will come to order. Chair asks unanimous consent that the chairman be authorized to declare a recess at any time during today's hearing without objection, so ordered. Chairman also asks unanimous consent that members not on the subcommittee be permitted to sit with the subcommittee at today's hearing and ask questions without objection, so ordered. As a reminder, if members wish to insert a document into the record, please also email it to documentsti@mail.house.gov. The chair now recognizes himself for the purpose of an opening statement for 5 minutes. I want to thank our witnesses for being here today to discuss reforming FEMA and how we can bring common sense back to federal emergency management. After witnessing the federal government's response to Hurricane Helene last year and the recent Los Angeles wildfires, I, like many Americans, were shocked by many of the stories I heard coming from these communities. I know members of this committee have proposed and Congress has enacted reform after reform to make FEMA and the federal emergency management system work better. Despite these efforts, it seems that nothing improves. And this is not meant to be a beatdown of FEMA, but we can't just keep going the way we've been and expect different outcomes. In fact, the bureaucratic labyrinth seems to have only become more complicated, causing unnecessary delays when disaster strikes. Taxpayers fund FEMA grant programs for states and local governments to invest in mitigation, preparedness, and response, yet many of these programs move too slow, preventing timely and effective action when it is most direly needed. I mean, for 46 years, individual regions should have been reducing risk, the impact of emergencies, and the number of emergencies themselves. And unfortunately, the metrics, including the cost and impact, have all gone in the wrong direction. What we saw in the case of Hurricane Helene is demonstrative of that fact. FEMA was ill-prepared to support the response and recovery in the mountains of North Carolina. In California, we saw a lack of preparedness by state and local officials, from a lack of water for firefighting to disorganization on the ground, despite literally billions of taxpayer dollars going to California for mitigation, preparedness, and firefighting. On top of all that, there are still over 1,000 open FEMA disaster declarations dating back to Hurricane Katrina, which is over 20 years ago, and well over 5,000 open projects. This raises serious questions about the federal government being the best institution to respond to localized disasters. Federal disaster assistance was created to support state and local governments when absolutely necessary, when the resources required exceed the ability of local agencies to respond. Unfortunately, the result has been to utilize FEMA as the first responder to every disaster occurring throughout the nation. This almost absolute reliance on the federal government is dangerous and costly. FEMA was not designed to be the first responder in disasters. States and local governments are. They know their communities best. They understand the risks, what their communities need, the terrain, and how to navigate it quickly, responding to emergencies. It is critical, therefore, that state and local governments make disaster preparedness a priority and that they budget for it. Let me say that again, and that they budget for it. Have the right people and training in place and ensure that they have the capacity and capability to respond. The current system creates a perverse incentive for states. States are mostly off the hook for meaningfully investing in their own emergency response and preparedness plans because they know they can rely on FEMA stepping in every time, even if it is inartful at best. Meanwhile, FEMA is stretched thin and is so weighed down by self-imposed bureaucratic requirements that they can't respond effectively when called upon or even close out projects going back 20 years. FEMA's ability to function effectively was further undermined as the previous administration pushed its open border, equity, and climate agenda onto the agency, resulting in disaster funding being diverted to ridiculous projects like planting trees to address urban heat islands. It's no wonder that President Trump created the FEMA Review Council and issued an executive order on state and local preparedness. I am hopeful that this hearing will provide valuable insight, as T&I is the lead House committee on FEMA and federal emergency management, because meaningful reform is obviously, absolutely, urgently needed. With that, I look forward to hearing from our witnesses on these topics, and the chair now recognizes the ranking member, Representative Stanton, for 5 minutes for his opening statement.